He thought I was asleep, but I heard him give my house away. That's the kind of sentence that doesn't just wake you up, it freezes you in place. And that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't move, not an inch. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Do you know that feeling when your body goes completely still, but your mind starts racing faster than it ever has? That was me, lying in bed, eyes closed, breathing slow, listening. "It's done," Caldrin whispered. "My husband, 12 years. The house is yours now, Mother." Silence, then the faint scrape of a chair, paper sliding across a surface, and her voice, soft, thin, but sharp underneath. "Osmira." "Finally," she said. "It took long enough." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not panic, not yet. Something quieter, something heavier. Because here's the part they didn't understand. That house, it wasn't ours. It was mine. I bought it 31 years ago. Paid it off myself. Every wall, every tile, every crack in the ceiling. I knew it all because I earned it. Long before Caldrin ever walked into my life with his careful smile and polite questions. And yet, there he was, in the next room, giving it away. How? That question kept echoing in my mind. How do you transfer something that doesn't belong to you? How do you sign over a house that isn't in your name? Unless I had signed something. My fingers twitched under the blanket. A memory surfaced. Blurred, uncomfortable. A few weeks ago. After my procedure. I'd been groggy. Half aware. Caldrin had brought me papers. Said they were hospital forms. Routine. I signed them, didn't I? In the other room I heard a pen click shut. Caldrin exhaled, almost relieved. She didn't even question it. A quiet laugh followed. "She never does," Osmira replied. That was the moment something shifted inside me. Not fear, not confusion. Clarity. They thought I didn't hear them. They thought this was already over, that I'd wake up tomorrow and everything would already be gone. I kept my breathing steady, slow, even, and very carefully, without making a sound. I slid my hand under the pillow and found my phone. I didn't confront them. I didn't cry out. I didn't move. Instead, I made one call. And what I said on that call would decide what happened next. You know what betrayal sounds like. Not shouting, not slamming doors. It sounds calm, casual. Oh, like they've already decided your life belongs to them. When the call connected, I kept my voice low. "Jorvan," I whispered, "I need you to answer one question before I lose my nerve." There was a pause on the other end, then his familiar, steady voice. "Virel?" Jorvan Klein, 71, former probate consultant, one of the few people I trusted because he'd spent 40 years dealing with exactly one thing, what people do when money, property, and greed collide. "If someone forged a transfer on a house," I asked, "how fast can it be stopped?" Silence, not confused silence, dangerous silence. Then he said, "That depends. Are they still in the house?" I looked towards the bedroom door, half expecting it to open. "Yes," I said. "Good," he replied. "Then don't say a word to them yet." That word, yet, hit me hard. Because until then, some part of me still wanted an innocent explanation, a misunderstanding, a paperwork mistake, anything but what my gut already knew. But once I hung up, the past 12 years began rearranging themselves in my mind. Funny how that happens, isn't it? One ugly truth, and suddenly every old moment grows teeth. Caldrin had always been attentive in public. That was his talent. He'd carry grocery bags, pull out chairs, kiss my forehead where people could see. But in private, he was always circling one subject or another. Insurance papers, account access, where I kept the deed, whether I had a will, whether the house would stay secure if something happened to me. At the time, he made it sound caring. Now, it sounded like inventory. And Osmira, that woman, had been dropping hints for years, small comments, or needling little observations disguised as old-fashioned wisdom. A home should stay in the husband's family. A woman alone shouldn't be managing legal things at your age. If anything happens, Caldrin will know what to do. I used to brush it off because that's what older women are taught to do, isn't it? Keep the peace, ignore the sting, don't make trouble in your own home. But lying there, staring at the dim edge of the room, I remembered something else. 3 weeks earlier, after my outpatient procedure, Caldrin came in with forms. I was tired, foggy. He smiled and said, "Just some discharge paperwork. Sign here and I'll take care of the rest." I signed, once, maybe twice. My stomach tightened. Jorvan called back less than 10 minutes later. His voice was even colder this time. "Virel," he said, I need you to think very carefully. Did you see a notary when you signed those papers?" And suddenly, I knew exactly why that question mattered. Let me ask you something. If you knew someone had just stolen your house, would you scream or would you wait? I didn't answer Jorvan right away, because the truth was already settling in. "No," I said finally. There was no notary, just Caldrin, and a man I didn't recognize. On the other end I heard a slow exhale, not relief, confirmation. "That's what I thought," Jorvan replied. "Then listen carefully. What they've done, if we prove it, isn't just invalid, it's criminal. Criminal." The word hung there heavy and precise. My grip tightened on the phone. How bad? Forgery, fraud, property transfer under false pretenses. He said, "If the paperwork's already filed, and we're dealing with something that could trigger an investigation fast, but we need proof, Virel, not suspicion. Proof." That meant one thing. I had to let this continue. "Don't confront them," Jorvan added, as if reading my mind. "Not yet. Let them believe it worked." There it was again, that word, believe. When the call ended, I stayed in bed for a few more minutes. Then slowly, deliberately, I sat up. Everything felt different now. Not because the house had changed, but because I finally saw the people inside it clearly. By afternoon, I stepped into the living room. Osmira was already there, sitting upright like she belonged in the center of it. Caldrin stood nearby, pacing slightly, then stopping when he saw me. "Oh, you're up," he said. Too quickly. "You should be resting." I gave a small, tired smile. I feel better." I watched them closely. Osmira didn't even try to hide it. Her eyes moved across the room like she was assessing it, measuring walls, judging furniture, claiming space without saying a word. Then she spoke. "We should open up this area," she said casually. "It would increase the value." We, not you, not Caldrin. We and Caldrin. He didn't correct her. Instead, he nodded. I was thinking the same thing. Something quiet and sharp settled deeper inside me. So this was their version of winning. Later that day, I left my phone on the kitchen counter, recording. Their voices carried easily. Osmira's tone was low but certain. Once it's officially processed tomorrow, there's nothing she can do. Caldrin chuckled softly. She signed it. That's all that matters. I stood just out of sight, listening to every word, every assumption, every mistake. That evening, Jorven called again. I checked the filing, he said. It went through this morning. My chest tightened. Then he added, but there's a problem. I didn't speak. The notary license number doesn't exist. For the first time since this began, I allowed myself the smallest breath of relief. Good, I said quietly. Good? Jorven asked. I looked toward the living room where they were still talking, still planning, still believing. Yes, I replied, because that means they've already lost. At exactly 4:12 p.m., there was a knock on the door, and that's when their victory started to collapse. But before that moment, before everything unraveled, there was a strange kind of calm. Have you ever watched people celebrate too early? It's almost surreal, like they're standing on a floor that hasn't realized it's about to give way. That's what the house felt like that afternoon. Osmira sat in the living room, back straight, hands folded over her cane, like she was already presiding over something permanent. She had started making plans out loud now. No hesitation. We should list it within the month, she said. The market is still favourable. Caldrin nodded, pacing slowly. We could get a very good price. Split it, reinvest. Split it, reinvest. They spoke in numbers now, not memories, not years, just profit. And me? I sat quietly in my chair across from them, hands resting in my lap, watching it all unfold like I wasn't part of the equation anymore, but every second that passed, something else was happening beneath the surface. Calls had already been made, documents reviewed, flags raised. They just didn't know it yet. At 4:12 p.m. exactly, the knock came, not loud, not aggressive, controlled, official. Caldrin frowned slightly, expecting someone. Osmira shook her head. He walked to the door anyway, casual at first, relaxed, maybe even annoyed, but the moment he opened it, everything in his posture changed. He stiffened. Silence stretched for just a second too long. From where I sat, I couldn't see the door, but I didn't need to. I already knew. Two voices. Calm. Professional. Good afternoon. We're here regarding a property transfer filed under this address. A pause, then footsteps. They entered without urgency, but with purpose. Caldrin's voice had lost its balance. There must be some mistake. We'll determine that shortly, one of them replied. Osmira straightened in her seat, her tone sharpening. This property is mine. It's already been signed over. Confidence, immediate, unshaken, but confidence doesn't hold up well against facts. Ma'am, the official said evenly, we're going to need to review the documentation used in that transfer. Papers were brought out. Voices overlapped. Questions began stacking. Names, dates, notary verification, and then the shift, subtle but unmistakable. The license number listed here, the official began, flipping a page, does not correspond to any registered notary. Silence, heavy this time, real. Caldrin turned slowly toward me, and that's when he finally saw it. I wasn't confused. I wasn't scared. I wasn't even surprised. I was waiting, watching, prepared. One of the officials stepped forward. We're going to need both of you to come with us for further questioning. Osmira's grip tightened on her cane. This is absurd, but no one was listening anymore, because the truth had already entered the room, and it wasn't leaving without them. Cauldron's eyes stayed locked on mine, and in that moment he understood exactly when he lost. What actually happened? Simple. They tried to take something that was never theirs, and they did it badly. Once the officials separated them, everything moved quickly and precisely. The document Caldrin had me sign, it wasn't medical paperwork. It was a quitclaim deed, transferring full ownership of my home to Osmira, but the execution was flawed from the start. There was no legitimate notary present. The man who stamped it used a fake license number, one that didn't exist in any official registry. That alone was enough to invalidate the document. But it didn't stop there. Because they had already filed it with the county, it escalated beyond a civil issue. It became criminal, forgery, fraud, intentional deception for financial gain. Jorven's early call flagged the filing before it could fully settle into the system. That's why the officials arrived so quickly. The moment the verification failed, the transfer was frozen, then reversed. Legally, it was as if it never happened, but for Cauldron and Osmira, it had very real consequences. Cauldron was taken in that same evening, no dramatic struggle, just a quiet, defeated compliance. His accounts were flagged during the investigation. Key and anything tied to the attempted transfer fell under review. Osmira followed shortly after. Her insistence that the house was hers didn't hold up against missing credentials and recorded conversations. Yes, those recordings mattered. Every word she spoke, every assumption they made, it all became evidence. Socially, the fallout spread faster than either of them expected. Neighbours noticed. Questions were asked. Stories travelled. The version of themselves they had carefully maintained, respectable, composed, collapsed almost overnight. And me? I stayed exactly where I was. That evening, after the house emptied out, I sat in the living room with the original deed placed neatly on the table in front of me, the same one I'd kept for decades, untouched, unchallenged. There was no celebration, just a quiet, steady sense of alignment. Later, I made one final call to update everything: legal protections, medical directives, property safeguards, no more blurred moments, no more unchecked trust. By morning, the locks were changed. Every item Caldrin and Osmira had brought into the house was gone. Boxed, removed, erased. The space felt different, not lighter, just accurate again. I walked through each room slowly, letting the silence settle back into its proper place, and as I stood by the front door, keys in hand, I allowed myself one final thought. They believed I didn't hear them, but I heard enough. Enough to make sure they lost everything before dinner